Hello everybody and welcome to another one of those videos where I talk about updates on the Steam version of Dwarf Fortress coming from Toady1, Kit Fox, and now Putnam. So this is kind of a different video in this series as it's a couple of blog or forum posts by Putnam. Now they're talking about FPS and pathfinding a lot in this, and so there's going to be some high-level stuff here and some lower-level stuff. So I'm going to do my best to kind of explain all of this at the end of the video and kind of talk about why I think this post is interesting. So let's dive right in. So back in November, on November 16th, Putnam posted on the Bay 12 forums, making a post called "Pathfinding is not a major cause of FPS death." Now, if you would like to read the entire thread, it's about 15 pages long, and I will link to it down in the description of this video. So up at the top, they say, "Source, I actually profiled the game, which is the only way to actually determine what is slow in a program." And I will read this chunk from the very first post, and then the follow-up post, which is, I think, where things are interesting. And they say, "In general, just like trying to optimize a program without profiling is just blind flailing and nothing of consequence. So if you want to contribute to figuring out what is causing frame rate issues, you have to figure out how to actually use the tools that let you find out what's causing FPS issues. I don't know if this is a gatekeepy viewpoint, but I've seen people so hyper-focused on pathfinding, which does not cause FPS issues except in extreme edge cases and tightly closed door mashups, that they seem to be convinced that fixing the pathfinding will fix FPS issues." Now, after reading that, I'm going to jump to the recent post from yesterday, or the day before yesterday at the time of recording. And they say, "I did another 3-minute profile on my 260 citizen fort. This time with the knowledge of the source. And percents are going to overlap some, and specific seconds are not. The slowest thing was line of sight checks, due to the fact that it was only counting checks in the function itself. This was a total of 14.7% of CPU time. However, if you remove one specific thing from line of sight checks, more on that later, it's 8%, and thus faster than the next thing, 13.131 seconds in the function itself. The slowest individual thing in the fort was checking family relationships. This was mostly, so far as I could tell, called in the context of watching performances, probably to tell if they should be feeling love at their family members or whatever. This was 9% of CPU time and 15.537 in the function. Next is getting glow tiles. This is required for line of sight tests. Naturally, glow tiled creatures are visible from further in the dark, 5.7%. This is the slowest part of line of sight checks, at least as far as the stuff that's actually done, 11.749 seconds. Number 4 is the game's software rescale function at 4.3%. and it's 7.440 seconds. Number 5 is probably tile rendering, I think. I see a couple of XMMS in there, and there's a lot of bizarre magic numbers that suggest a switch case to me, 13.2%, most of which is in subcalls at 5350 seconds. Number 6 is temperature stuff. I think 6.3% and about 5 seconds. And it just goes on like this for a while. The main point I'm getting to is that 1%, 0.687 seconds is pathfinding. Pathfinding is not a cause of FPS death at all. It is completely irrelevant to the slow, inevitable frame rate death that people complain about. So now you might be wondering why this is interesting and why I'm highlighting this thread. I think that this is interesting because I see a lot of community discussion around frame rate. I see a lot of community discussion around items. I see a lot of community discussion around slowdown. Personally, I've been able to keep forts alive for hundreds of years in-game with minimal slowdown, and in older versions of the game, I've even been able to keep it at perfectly playable 30 to 45 frames a second. In this version of the game, it seems to run a lot slower, and my current fort, which is 17 years old, currently is sitting at a pretty steady 20 to 25 frames per second, with the occasional dip down to around 15. Granted, it is a larger map than I normally play, so that's probably got something to do with it, but it's really interesting to kind of see this progress and this science being done in real time. It's a very interesting thread, and I do recommend you have a look. I just kind of wanted to spotlight it more than anything in this series that I know gets a lot of views, more so than my normal videos generally do. And I just wanted to say, if you think that this kind of thing is interesting and you would like to see it in this particular playlist in the future, let me know. If you think I should split it out into a different playlist, I'm open to a discussion down in the comments section. But generally, what I do have to say is this is interesting. Specifically the part where she gets into talking about family relationships, causing bizarre slowdowns. I think that that is really interesting. I think that the fact that that's 9% of CPU time checking if they should be in love with another dwarf or not, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing improvements and frame rate increases in real time, especially if Putnam can continue digging into these nitty-gritty bits of the code and the numbers for Dwarf Fortress. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you would like to support this video directly, you obviously know how to do that. I sell mugs now, and if you would like to see me stream on Twitch, you can find me at twitch.tv/BLINDIRL. Thank you very much for watching this video, and I hope to see you in the next one. Keep an eye out for future of the Fortress in a couple days.